Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Kellam, the Parish Associate at the Union Presbyterian Church in Endicott, welcoming you to this week's edition of Encounter. You ever wondered where the topics come from for these weekly programs? You haven't? Well, I'll just share one with you now. Every once in a while I have a group of people that I want to talk to, and I only get one show a month, and so I may have a long line of folks I want to talk with and get to know. This time, however, I wound up finding this little handout. I went to a jazz concert at that golf course in Green that you can't pronounce, or that I can't pronounce. Jenna Ganslet? Is that?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay. But the thing is, it was sponsored by the Green Rotary Club. Do you know someone, the question is asked, who is autistic or ADHD? Neurodiversity can be more than autism and ADHD. And if you work with, teach, or have family members who are neurodivergent, then you know some of the things that get in their way or make life harder. Well, I was fascinated by that because I don't know very much about autism. But I have found a couple of folks who are going to help us find out more about it. Dawn Marie Solais is with an organization called EQSolutions, and you are the organization.
I am, yep, it's me.
Yep. And then Allyson Aylesworth is the Children's Ministry Coordinator at the Union Center Christian Church in Endicott in the Main Endwell school system. So welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
There's a conference coming up, the date of which it's
September 24th.
September 24th.
It runs all day, 9 in the morning until 7:30 at night.
So this will help us gather some information, and especially for folks who are more than just curious, but maybe living with someone who is ADHD or autistic. Mm-hmm. Let's just start with this term, neurodivergent. And Dawn Marie, let's please define that for me.
So neurodiversity is a term that means every single way of thinking, processing, and understanding your world, right? So how your brain works. And it's neuro for brain and diversity for all, yeah. Right? Neurodivergent is a set of categories within all of that. That is autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, and more. Tourette's, basically ways of thinking and processing that work a little bit differently than was once considered the standard or the norm. Mm-hmm.
And what was your interest in starting EQSolutions?
I started off as a middle school English teacher. And I absolutely adore middle schoolers because they're horrible and obnoxious and rude and wonderful.
And you could identify.
Well, you know, they think differently just by existing. They're really poking and prodding at the world in ways that are often misunderstood by others. And I basically showed up on this planet wanting to support, enjoy, and advocate for anybody who's treated as an other, outcast, right? Middle schoolers are basically that, right?
Right, yeah. My wife taught middle school music for 3 years, back when I was in seminary.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I've been paying her back ever since.
Yeah, so basically what I learned is that all the things that I wanted to do for these beautiful young people became more and more hampered the more we got into standardized forms of education, teaching for the test, et cetera. So that method of education became not for me, mm-hmm. and I pivoted to coaching. so that I could help not only young people, but all the way through every stage of adulthood, for anybody who felt like the way they understood their brain and their emotions wasn't really working for them, and they needed somebody who could help them figure themselves out and do life better. And I eventually came upon my own identity. I'm autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, dyscalculic, and dyspraxic. And I only knew about the dyslexia when I was 15. All of the rest came much later in my adult life. And I've been able to not only do the research and meet the experts and stuff like that, but really delve into my own experience and synergize all of that into a new way of helping people, whether they are neurodivergent or not, that's just truly beautiful and deep and meaningful and makes people's lives a whole lot better.
One phrase that you used early on in the conversation was that you were put on this planet to do this. I love that sense of vocation, that you found your vocation teaching at first, and now you found your vocation in coaching. So this is your call, and along the way, you've learned more about yourself, but you're doing so much to help others understand themselves as well. Help me to understand. Can we begin with autism? I know about a spectrum. Well, there's a spectrum in everything, isn't there? I mean, there's a spectrum in college sports. Help me define that.
So what you're going to find if you go out there and do your own research is that there are still emerging and different perspectives. So what you're going to hear from me is mine, all right? There are going to be people who will disagree with mine. But autism, the way we're beginning to understand it through the research, it's a way of thinking that enjoys pattern, that relates to consistency, that can be deeply devoted to honesty, truth, fact, specificity. And the spectrum kind of comes in to play with how needful we are of those things. Some of us really deeply need those things in order to feel okay, and some of us have a little more squishiness to our need, right?
Yeah.
But it's there. An autistic person will do better when things are consistent, planned, feel like they are reasonable, fair, that kind of thing. What is currently misunderstood, in my opinion, the most about autism is that autism is a way of thinking that can be very challenging for the individual, but a lot of that challenge comes from their environment, not really from who they are. It's whether or not the people and the places they are with or exist can make room for them successfully. Autistic people will find their lives much easier when there aren't so many impediments to them being who they are and not being asked to act like others.
Is autism something that you would recognize early on in a child's age?
Yes. There are starting to become earlier and earlier indications that we understand to recognize an autistic child. There are some that many may already know about, like if you see your child maybe really enjoying the same activity all the time, they're very repetitive, or they verbalize like the same sound over and over and over and over and over, right?
And over and over.
And over and over. Children that start their language journey either extremely early or somewhat delayed. They're indicators where we can at least have a really good guess at autism. One of the things that I'm advocating for is that we don't mistake that as a problem for or with the child, and that we do everything we can to help that child learn to thrive as they are. And so some approaches that are popular today are ones that I don't agree with. I'm not a behavior changing person. I would like to see that person be able to figure themselves out and grow successfully as themselves with a society and systems that make room for who they are. You know, the person that taps their fingers on the desk incessantly while you're trying to have a meeting may drive me nuts, but they may need that in order to stay in the room. We've got to figure out how both they and I can exist in the same space so that we can all be together. So my view of autism, my view of ADHD, Tourette's, all of the things comes from, let's look at this person as valid as they are and do less changing of the person and more accommodating and room making in their environments.
Yeah. I was with a young man at a meeting recently who clicked his pen constantly, clicked his pen. And I got used to it, but I know that there may be some others who would be terribly, that something's wrong with that kid. And what we're saying is there's nothing wrong. We just adapt. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, my preference right now would be having things that can keep my hands busy.
Yeah.
My mother figured this out about me when I was very little, and I was telling Allyson earlier, all of my shirts came with these because I could tie knots in them. It's about the only way you were going to get me to sit still is if I had a way to keep my hands busy. Something on me is generally moving. I have had to learn, especially in situations like this, where I'm being viewed. My general movement, which can be a lot, right? My natural self can be hard for somebody else to watch. So I want to accommodate them while I don't hurt myself in the process. So I need a foot tapping or a knee bouncing or I might flick I need a little energy release.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I'm often tapping my foot. And it's an inner energy, or maybe I'm hearing a rhythm. When I go to the firehouse stage and there's jazz, my body's moving. And someone came up to me once, I'm in the front row, and she said, "I just love watching you move to the music." And I thought, boy, if you could see me dance, you wouldn't say that. But this is just a normal thing. That's who I am. And my wife's used to it, although she has to tell me now and then, if we're in a church pew and my movement is moving the whole pew, then perhaps that would be a time to kind of settle down.
If you're vibrating the entire place.
Yes, that's right.
But that's where like fidget toys come in, or if you had something else you could do where you could get your energy out, you wouldn't feel like you had to suppress yourself in order to make others comfortable. You could be you in a way that also accommodates your fellow humans.
Sure. And that's one of the things that we want to talk about the church. Now, this conference is taking place at the Union Center Christian Church in Endicott. And why is the church hosting a conference like this?
Well, I actually met Dawn Marie in a coffee shop, and she shared her story with me. And
all right, no, wait a minute. You overheard her having a conversation.
The other way around.
Yeah, she overheard me having a conversation
okay.
with one of my friends about autism and my interaction with children with autism. And
she stopped by your table.
She stopped by her table and handed me her business card, and we connected. And our first meeting, she shared with me about her dream of having a conference like this. And I was like, oh, I would love to join you in that. And as she talked about what she wanted this conference to look like, I pictured my church being the place that would be a perfect venue for it. And so I asked our leadership, and they were thrilled to be able to offer our space to bless the community in this way.
So we're talking about a Neurodiversity Conference, Information Networking Advocacy Support, INNIS 2022. So a Neurodiversity Conference, encouraging the general public to participate. And it's going to be held on Saturday, September 24th, in person, virtual, and then you'll record it. So it will be available to be seen. Morning, afternoon, evening sessions. Sounds like something that if anyone knows someone who is autistic or has ADHD or dyslexic, or you named a couple of other conditions, that you have? Is that what we...
Neurotypes. I would say neurotypes.
Neurotypes.
I'm one of the people that will take it out of the medical platform. That does not mean I don't think there is no place for the medical or the therapeutic. There absolutely is.
Yeah.
But pathologizing a thing often creates an approach that misses some stuff. The example that I commonly use is if you're tall, you are tall, right? There are things about being tall that are really wonderful, and there are things about being tall that are hard. I would imagine you bump your head getting in and out of the car sometimes, right? You know, you've got big shoulders, getting through a doorway may be an issue sometimes, right? Like,
well, being in a short bed, for one thing.
if you don't enjoy your feet hanging over the end,
right?
Right. Even finding...
This is getting very personal, I must say.
Even finding the right size shoe that fits appropriately, right? If you fall outside of the middle, no matter what that is, size, shape, thinking, anything, if you fall outside of the middle, the world has to make room for you, or you are technically disabled by who you are.
Yeah.
So as a tall person, there are environments where you can be quite disabled.
Yeah.
But we don't look at you as having a disability.
Right.
And so I am in no way trying to ignore or reject, especially because that would ignore and reject my lived experience. There are things about who I am as a neurodivergent person that are extremely hard. But I don't think they would be quite so hard if I lived in a world that understood me better, enjoyed me a little bit more, and made some space.
Yeah, yeah. So the conference, tell us how people can find out more about the conference. Is there a website to go to?
There is, and the easiest way to find it is to Google INAS 2022. We should pop up in the first or second option in your search. Go to our website. The INAS pages live on my business website. Oops, sorry. I just smacked the microphone.
Our whole audio staff back there, all 27 people, were taking off their headphones.
I've been on that side of the microphone.
Yeah.
The information is there about the perspective of the conference. The program of the live event is there. There will eventually be much more information about the virtual event, which is 30 plus hours of content from people. We have contributors from all over the United States, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, even China.
My goodness.
So we have people coming from all over the world sharing their expertise, their knowledge, their research, their point of view, and their lived experience in this space in an effort to bring all of what we know, all of what we're trying to accomplish together, so that we can see how we can move forward in a more unified and connected way.
Yeah. So once again, if you Google INAS 2022, it'll come up pretty soon in the search.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And that the conference once again is Saturday, September 24th at the Union Center Christian Church. And our guests today are Dawn Marie Solais, who is with EQSolutions, and Allyson Aylesworth, who is at the Union Center Christian Church and the Children's Ministry Coordinator. I wanted to make sure that we had some time to talk about how the church can be more welcoming and can adapt, whether it's the worship service or Christian education or youth programs. Yeah. What is your take on that?
Yeah, first I want to say that I and our church I feel like we're just at the beginning of this journey of being intentional. And so we have a lot to learn, and But one of the things that I think is the most important is creating a culture. So rather than before tools and before specific accommodations, it really needs to be a culture that's created that is non-judgmental, that kind of releases assumptions, and really is based in relationship. And so we get to know the people that come through our doors and what their needs are and what their preferences are and what is difficult for them in our service or in our children's rooms. Get to know them, get to know parents, get to know caregivers, and build relationship. Because really what a welcoming church would be is a place where everyone can belong. And you can't belong in a place without relationships.
Right.
And so that's always the first place to start. And so, and that culture of really seeing the person first. So we have one of our values in our children's ministry is loving kids over program. And so we want the kids to come and feel safe and loved, and whether they get through all the activities of that are in the curriculum for that day is okay, whether they do or not.
Yeah.
And so do they feel safe and loved? Do the parents feel seen and empowered? And really that's what we all desire inside, is to be seen and empowered and safe and loved. Yeah. And so we want to do that with everyone. And so I really think it comes to seeing, when we approach a person, we have to remember that that person has a story. So whether that's a story about their neurotype, or a story about their trauma, or a story about the fight they had in the car on the way to church, really they come into that space with certain needs, and we all do. And so I think it's kind of understanding that I have a story that I'm bringing to that space, and every person has a story that they're bringing to that space, and what is that? So approaching it with curiosity, removing assumptions. So if someone is tapping their nails, or they're, I just had a mom tell me, she's like, my brain works so much better, and I would be able to pay so much more attention in church if I could crochet. Yeah. I was like, I completely understand that. Here's a box of fidget toys that we use in our kids ministry, but you're welcome to them. And so, but I could make an assumption if I saw her crocheting that she was not engaged, that she was not, that she didn't care about what was going on. She cared more about her project or whatever. But really, that's a wrong assumption.
Yeah.
And if I were to judge her according to that, I would be completely wrong. And so I think it's releasing some of those things as the very first thing we need to do. Yeah,
I've been in meetings with people knitting, and I also have a friend who colors. She's got coloring books, and she colors constantly. And somebody else hooks rugs. They are busy, but that doesn't mean that their minds are not engaged. With what's going on.
Yeah, in fact, for me, I have discovered over the years that my brain does not function its best unless my hands are moving. So they have to be doing something, whether it's taking notes or picking at lint on my pants or whatever it is. They have to be moving in order for my brain to function.
Yeah.
And so I'll hold my coffee cup when I have a conversation, and I'll move it around. Or, I've found ways that are socially acceptable, but that's what I need. And so
I would think that every church council ought to be talking about this, especially if they want to be a welcoming, accepting church that is inclusive. Every church session or vestry or church council should have a conversation about this, and do it not from hearsay or assumption, but with someone, a coach like Dawn Marie.
And we're providing time at the conference for that conversation to begin. Allyson, you can speak to this, but Allyson is heading up a breakout session in the live event that is specifically for churches of any faith or faith communities of any type to come together and talk about this together. And what is difficult about being inclusive? What does stand in our way? How does tradition match a modern approach to this kind of thinking, right? And
and how we can support each other in that process.
Yes, certainly.
Because, like she said before, the medical community and the therapy community and the business community and the education community, there's pieces that we all have learned in our journey about neurodivergence and neurodiversity that we could share with each other, and that's what this conference is doing. And there may be things that we're learning in our faith communities oh, I tried this might work. And being able to support each other and fill in those pieces for each other could be really powerful.
And like many conferences that are helping the community, it doesn't stop at the conference.
Right.
This is just the beginning. And for many people, this is the start of a very important journey where they will grow from this point onward and making life easier, better, more accepting for folks who might have been looked at askance.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that I might suggest, if a faith community is really interested in providing more inclusion, that person that makes you grumpy. I wish they wouldn't behave. I wish they wouldn't. I wish, right?
Yeah.
Like, God, can't they please, whatever that is, try to see a person who's doing their best and meet them there. If they seem uncomfortable, if they seem resistant, if they seem uncooperative, if they're always late, see what you can do to help.
Have a conversation and listen in your conversation. Yeah. Once again, I want to point out because time is short now, the conference is the Neurodiversity Conference, Saturday, September 24th. There's still lots of room for you to get in touch. You Google INAS 2022. That will take you to some information about it. Or I would imagine you could call the Union Center Christian Church and find out something about it as well.
Tickets are very inexpensive, but we are offering anyone who asks a free ticket. If you can't afford it, just tell us.
Terrific. So our guests today have been Dawn Marie Solais, who is with EQSolutions, one of the sponsors of the conference, one of the organizers, and Allyson Aylesworth, the Children's Ministry Coordinator at the Union Center Christian Church. Neurodiversity is, again, it was a new term to me, and I hope that in the coming days I'll know more about it. If I were going to be in town, I would be there. I can assure you of that. So tickets are on sale. And, I think I'm looking at some of the major sponsors include Unleashed Potential, RISE, ICDL. Not sure.
ICDL is a therapy concept that includes DIR floor time. DIR floor time is going to be on site. Allyson is a practitioner. It's an amazing therapy. We really encourage people to come and find out.
Great. And so people, if you want to know more information about that, you can probably Google ICDL. Yeah. But first, Google INAS 2022. Thank you both for being with us for the Encounter program.
Yeah, thank you.
And I thank you for watching this morning and listening to our conversation. The Encounter program, as you probably know by now, is produced by the Broome County Council of Churches in association with WBNG-TV. I'm Jeff Kellam, the Parish Associate at the Union Presbyterian Church, the old retired guy, hoping that in the coming week you'll be gentle with people and with yourself.